It is fantastic to be back. How are you doing? It's been so long since we saw each other last. You've really grown. I've lost a bit of hair on top. Otherwise, I've not really changed. I've been working a lot in the field of RPGs, if it's a field. I'm mostly just blathering on right now, waiting to see whether people might drop in to watch this live video, which is currently reliant on my 4G signal being strong enough to broadcast. So let's hope. I'm always hopeful, always optimistic. Someone has just chimed in. And yeah, it may be a surprise to see me. Hello, Price. Long time no see indeed. How you have grown. Uh, I don't know who you are. Yeah, how are you doing, CRK1142? Always lovely to see you as well. Now, I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well because I'm here to, well, basically say, good God, it's been a while, hasn't it? It's certainly been a while since I have appeared on this channel, and it's because I've been spending most of my creative energies writing RPGs, developing RPGs, art directing RPGs. Excellent. I'm glad the Jimitsi thinks that, pronounced differently to how I usually pronounce it, thinks that my 4G is holding out fine. It is an interest of the clan, telecommunications and like. Now, why am I making this video? Why am I making this video in what has become a very increasingly busy thoroughfare as I'm broadcasting live? Well, I'm here partly to shill something, partly as an update. And God, actually, you know what? I thought when I was going to start broadcasting, I would just start talking immediately about the game that I'm here to talk about. But as ever, I'm prone to going off on tangents. And I have to say thank you very much, everyone who is just tuning into this live. It's quite unexpected. And this is my home, in a way. I guess my first connection to people with RPGs on a grand scale was through this channel. So coming back to it is always a bit strange. I broadcast on Twitch, I broadcast on the Onyx Path YouTube channel, but coming back here is always something a little special, especially when I start seeing familiar usernames tuning in to the live chat. I can see your messages, so thank you very much everyone who is posting them. Thumbs up aren't mandatory, although, I do enjoy a good thumb up. So, why am I here? Well, all of you, I am here to talk about Mummy the Curse 2nd Edition. Now, some of you may be familiar with Mummy the Curse because Mummy is one of my favourite Chronicles of Darkness games. I made a video about it many moons ago when it was originally on Kickstarter, and I even ran a session of it on this channel, and since that time I've become the developer for Mummy the Curse, because, that's life, I guess. And I'm a really big fan of it still. And I was aware that Mummy was a game that needed some tweaks. It was a game that needed some adjustment to make it more accessible, needed some utility to make players engage with it a little more, and it needed some more setting. Now, that's not to say Mummy First Edition was at all weak. It wasn't. As I said, it was one of my favourite Chronicles of Darkness games. I loved the setting. It was probably the Chronicles of Darkness game, or New World of Darkness game, with the strongest meta plot of a line that didn't really have meta plot. But I felt that more could be done with it. And so 2nd Edition is definitely an evolution of Mummy. But let's start with the brass tacks. What is Mummy about? Mummy is about playing immortals created around 6,000 plus years ago, created to serve some godlike judges for eternity, to wake up periodically because someone's disturbing your tomb, your cult is summoning you, your judge has awoken you, a great act of necromancy has taken place near your resting place, or the stars have aligned. At which point you serve your cult, you serve your deity, you serve the needs of your people, and you track down relics imbued with Sekhem, a magical life force. You hunt down the enemies of the mummies, and eventually you descend again into sleep. It's a fairly simple concept, except there's some interesting features, such as when you awake in Mummy the Curse, and this is an inversion of almost every RPG I've ever played, you wake up at your most powerful. You will wake up with maximum Sekhem, and Sekhem is your mana, for want of a better term. It allows you to throw meteors from the sky, commands I guess, clouds of carnivorous beetles to set forth the 7 plagues of Egypt, that kind of thing. You can do that as soon as you wake up at the beginning of the game. You're being driven mostly by instinct, monstrous urges at that point, and you don't have much memory of who you were, where you are, when you are, and who these people are that are disturbing you. Now, the longer you stay awake, the more your SecM goes down, but the more your memory goes up. And this is the thing I really love about Mummy First Edition, that inversion of power scales. That by the time your SecM is at its lowest, you remember everything. You know everywhere you've been, everyone you've seen, everything you've ever experienced, but you are less powerful, you are less able to directly impact anything like that, which is why you have a cult. And in First Edition, the cult was mostly mortals with Sadiq. Sadiq are immortal mummy servants, mummies can only have one. Now, as well as that central theme, I have done some work to expand it in Second Edition, as have the writers. Primarily, let's start with the cult. Mummy Second Edition gives you the rules to play Immortals from World of Darkness Immortals. That means you can play Bloodbathers, you can play Body Thieves, you can play Reborn, you can play Eternals. Eternals like Dorian Gray leashes almost with phylacteries. You can play SecM Sorcerers, who are mortals who have either stumbled into a little too much occult knowledge or who have spent most of their lives researching, and so they know that X plus Y equals Z, but they're not necessarily awakened, they just know the components, as well as Sadiq and Mortals. So this is a game that expands the player options. Mummies are still in it, they're still central, they're still core, but it's a game with a lot more utility. Plus, the accessibility issues of First Edition, which mostly revolved around language, the density of the setting, it's been opened up vastly. As an example, the guilds in First Edition had names like the Engravers, the Scribes, the Priests, and we've done a lot to basically give reason for what those guilds do in the modern era or any era. The Engravers are also the secret police among mummies, they're spies. The Priests are also Pharaoh. So it's a very simple thing, but it basically makes the game more accessible to an audience. Now, the most exciting feature of Mummy the Curse Second Edition, if I do say so myself, is one that I came up with, and it is the timeless aspect. Mummy Second Edition is called the Timeless Chronicle, and although mummies wake up periodically and sleep periodically, in Second Edition it is established they do not wake up in a chronologically linear order. The reason I introduced this is in part because I love time travel, but is also it threads a loop that was missing in the First Edition, where when you first wake up in 2012, you have starting level experience. That made no sense to me. You're playing a creature that's 6,000 years old, and you have definitely woken up beforehand in First Edition. In Second Edition, your first awakening may well be in 2019 or 2020. Your second awakening may be in 1666. You're there to witness the Great Fire of London and participate in that. The next one may be in 200 BCE. The next one may be in 400 CE. The point is, your mummies wake up whenever the judges want them to wake up. You are not waking up in a linear order. That enables you to play a game across multiple eras, and I think that's a great deal of fun given that you're playing immortal beings with very little memory when you wake up. That doesn't mean when you wake up in 500 CE you know the design for a Ferrari or you can invent the apple, but it does mean that when your memory has increased, if your mummy was awake in 2019 and is now waking up during the reign of Justinian I, you could educate your cult to back the Dallas Cowboys in the 1970s or something like that, because you are empowering them, you're making them more faithful, you know the tricks that will enable them to become wealthy and powerful and therefore worship you more. There's all kinds of fun things you can do with time travel, of course, not just limited to knowing who to place bets on. So, yeah. Mummy the Curse Second Edition, it introduces Immortals, it introduces the timeless aspect, it introduces a whole slew of fun things, and it's on Kickstarter right now. I should probably mention that, shouldn't I? It's on Kickstarter right now, and it's already hit its funding. So why am I even here? Well, we're aiming for stretch goals, but also because it's a game that I have loved pouring my time into. I have really enjoyed working on this game, and so I wanted to bring it to your attention. And the great thing is, even if you back the Kickstarter at the lowest possible level, $5, you can still read the entire manuscript before the book comes out. Yeah, if you look for a print version, the fact is the traditionally printed run of Mummy the Curse 2nd edition, that's done. But if you back it, whether it's for a print copy, a PDF, or just to read the manuscript, or one of the flashy upper tier rewards, you can help us fund stretch goals, more source books, things that examine the judges, the gods in more detail, more powers, more immortals, all kinds of fun little things like that. So my advice to you, and I will be putting the link to the Kickstarter in the description below, but if anyone's watching right now and you have the link to that Kickstarter, please post it in the chat, that would help a great deal. I would be beholden to you if not only you back it, but you also go into the comments on Kickstarter and say, I came here from the Gentleman Gamer channel. And that's partly a market research thing. I want to find out how much this channel has in terms of reach these days. Because I'm not done with this. Just as I'm here today doesn't mean I'm going to be gone for another year. I've got a few videos planned, and they'll be coming out in the forthcoming weeks. I think some of them may excite you a little. Yeah, how's that for a teaser? But as the 4G seems to be holding up, and thank you very much to the people who are tuned in watching this, I'm not completely absent from the internet these days. I am on the Onyx Path YouTube channel. I'm also on the Onyx Path Twitch channel. I just haven't really done much with this channel recently. But it is always lovely to come home. I would really appreciate it if some of you checked out the Mummy the Curse 2nd edition Kickstarter. Again, if one of you right now could go on Kickstarter, find that link, Mummy the Curse 2nd edition, post it in the chat while we're talking, I would be incredibly grateful. I will even give you a prize for doing so, the first person who does it. I'm going to now, over the next, for as long as my arm will hold up, I don't have a selfie stick, you see, I'm holding this phone as I'm speaking. Let's say for the next 8 minutes or so, I am going to answer some questions. So, ideally about Mummy, but if you have any other questions, anything you want to know, yeah, you can go to the Carpathians, you can go to Carthage, you can go to anywhere beginning with the word car. And car, in fact, is one of your pillars in Mummy the Curse. Some people ask me, what is your purpose in Mummy? And your purpose is either what your cult wants you to do, it's what your judges command you to do, it's what your instincts compel you to do. Sometimes it's putting down a great immortal foe, sometimes it's hunting down a great powerful relic, sometimes it's just going to be finding out a little about yourself and the mummies around you. It could be all kinds of interesting things. And there's also some inbuilt crossover with with Werewolf the Forsaken and Beast the Primordial if you want to incorporate it. Some people walking by are dreadfully loud, aren't they? So anyway, it is actually snowing somewhere in the UK right now. Well, in fact, in this county. But yes, I'll answer some questions if you have any, and they don't have to be Mummy related. But I really would like it if at least one of you could post that link to the Mummy Kickstarter in the chat. If you don't, I'm going to be very sad. Zimitsi or Zimishi says, how long am I going to be back? The link is already posted. It just didn't come up in my chat log. Therefore, it isn't telling me who posted it. So I'm going to give you everyone the prize, like a good communist. I'm going to blow everyone a kiss and say thank you very much. That's what you get. You get a kiss blown to you from me. There. Can't say fairer than that, can you? So yeah. Unfortunately, yeah, the link just isn't showing up. Do I have a favourite philosopher that has informed any of my character creation? Wow, okay, that's an interesting question. Do I have a favourite philosopher? Now, I'm not really a philosophy student. I enjoy the works. I have read the works of John Locke. There you go. So, there you go. I wouldn't say it influences my work, though. I'm not nearly erudite enough to know my philosophers. So I'm going to have a look and see what other questions we have here. Are all mummies from Egypt? No, they're from the Nameless Empire, which is proto-ancient Egyptian. But the excellent thing in Mummy the Cursed 2nd Edition is you can transfer your soul into different bodies. In fact, you can do this with your cultists. You can invest your cultists with your pillars. They make up your soul, your being. And if your body becomes irreparably damaged, or even if you just don't fancy staying it anymore, you can take over their body instead. So if you want to be a South American mummy or a Chinese mummy or something like that, you can quite easily do so with minimal justification. When can we expect the next episode? As Pavel, we can expect the next episode by next week. I have some very fun ideas and some things already recorded. Is Daddy the Armchair a stretch goal? Any time I spend on the armchair, I'm generally being climbed upon by my son. Hey Crimson, thank you very much for loving my videos, and I am still live. Adrian, as you know, you watch the Onyx Path YouTube channel as well, so you should know that. Michael says, your friends will play Vampire Changing Well, won't play Mummy. How do I convince them to play Mummy? You tell them time travelling immortals, you tell them eternals with phylacteries, you tell them body thieves, you tell them mummies with godlike powers. You can spit forth a plague of locusts if you like. Is it possible for mummies to be created after the Nameless Empire, says Gadfly? Yes, it is, but they would be flawed. They would not be mummies with the same right of return as the Arisen. They would fall within the immortals category, but definitely they do exist. Do you think you'll be on YouTube with any regularity in non-Onyx Path type videos? I'm going to be more regular than I have been. Really, it depends on time, and also depends on creative urge. I guess if I have the interest to make a series about something, I will do it. But it's also, whether I have the time to actually fulfill that urge. Where have I been, says Thin? I have been writing and developing RPGs. It takes up a lot of time. I've also been being a parent, which also takes up a lot of time, but both immensely rewarding. Anyone who's only just tuned in, please do scroll up the chat log, because Mummy the Cursed 2nd Edition is currently on Kickstarter, and we are aiming, very close indeed, to reach our next Kickstarter stretch goal, which will enable us to add further powers to the book, utterances. They're your godlike mummy powers that allow you to do things like create earthquakes and direct storms at people. You know, fun stuff. Curious how mummies would work together. Simple. They become entombed together. In fact, in 2nd edition, they have ways of recognizing that they are all part of the same Moret. So when you wake up with 0 memory, or 1 memory, which isn't much, or 3 memory, I think is the standard, you wake up not knowing much about what is around you, but the other mummies you know instinctively are your companions. So if you imagine you have dementia or some other horrible ailment that makes you forget, an amnesia if you like, the only anchors you really have are the other mummies around you. So I think that in itself gives a good reason to work together. Plus you're the survivors of a fallen civilization. That creates a sort of unity. Do excuse the noise in the background of someone with a suitcase. Are there examples in the book's lore of prophecies and cults workings originating from mummies having awakened in the future? There aren't any examples of prophecies, but we do have story hooks setting mummies on Mars. So there is a little bit of future play there. Mummies in space is a thing in Mummy the Cursed 2nd Edition. Would you ever consider doing more videos covering the Bali, or Baali if you like, or Baali, and the spirits and demons side of things? I have done a Gentleman's Guide to Vampires, Guide to Clan Bali, and I could do a series on Demon the Fallen if I get the time. I would love to actually develop Demon the Fallen, if anyone's watching who has the license for Demon. Personal curiosity, do you have a preference between Old World of Darkness and Chronicles? I love the meta plot of World of Darkness. I love the playability of Chronicles of Darkness. it's very difficult for me to have a favourite. I am the World of Darkness line developer for Onyx Path Publishing, so obviously I have a lot of love for the World of Darkness. So I think that's where my heart is. But Chronicles of Darkness is a fantastic line all on its own. I don't fall into the camp that you have to like one, not the other. Wow, a lot of people are tuning into this. What is the power level, would you say? Are you a rider of an apocalypse or more of a BMX bandit? You are more a rider, a horseman of the apocalypse in Mummy the Curse. Given that, again, you can spread pestilence and foment war and all kinds of lovely stuff. And you're immortals. Again, if you've only just tuned in, and there's quite a few of you, Mummy the Curse 2nd Edition is currently on Kickstarter. I need you not only to back it, even if it's at the lowest level, but to comment on that Kickstarter to say that you are there because I sent you. That's a test, really, but I would love for you to do it. What new projects are you working on, Matthew? A lot of projects I can't talk about, Adrian, but one of them is another V5 book. I've also just finished up a new scenario for Cult Divinity Lost. Can we expect you to be the lead on more products? Yes, I am, as I say, the World of Darkness line developer at Onyx Path, so that means I'm going to be developing books for quite a while. When do I think Mummy will be released? Well, we're already getting art in for it, which is fantastic, and if you back the Kickstarter, you'll be able to read the entire manuscript before the Kickstarter even ends. The book itself should be finished probably around the middle of next year. I imagine it'll be fully laid out and released by then, but I won't give a strict deadline because things can fall down if artists drop off the map. I've corrupted my entire play group into playing Onyx Path games courtesy of the Gentleman Gamer's influence, says Joshua. Thank you for that. Well, thank you very much for corrupting your game group due to my influence. That is exactly why I set up this channel. It was to spread horrible seeds of corruption throughout the RPG sphere. After Beckett's Jihad Diary, I'll support anything you're involved with, says Thin White Bibs. Thank you. I think Beckett's Jihad Diary is going to go down as my opus. If any book could, if it's an RPG, because I kind of vomited 20 years of Vampire the Masquerade lore that was in my head onto pages, and that's what Beckett's Jihad Diary is, in a vague order of transcripts, blog entries, diary scraps, and all kinds of weird and wonderful stuff. But I love Beckett's. It's gone down very well, and it was great fun to work on. Mummies in Space, sign me up, says Mark Torres. Yes, if you missed that, you can play Mummy the Curse set on Mars. One of the story hooks is set in the future, at least one of them. Pika says, thank you for answering my esoteric question. It's quite alright. Yeah, I'm sorry I'm not more of a philosophy student, but I can certainly see the benefit of it. If only I had the time. Came from under the pyramid would be awesome, says Adrian. Well, that is Mummy already. Mummies on Mars sounds amazing, says Joshua. Excellent. Good to know. So can Mummy's shape change to look more like current humanity, says Doc Out? Yeah, definitely. I mean, you don't all look like Neanderthals in Mummy the Curse. But as your Sechem reduces, you look more and more human. When you first awaken, you do look like a horrible, glowing, pulsating, start to look more and more huge. If you invested your pillars in a host, you will start to resemble them. Otherwise, if you maintain the same body for thousands of years, you'll look like the person you were when you were alive. Just briefly, though. Is Onyx Path hiring writers? Always, Michael. There we have submission guidelines on the onyxpath.com. Please follow them. If you don't follow them, you don't send a non-disclosure agreement, you don't do what we ask, we won't hire you. But that is the first test. If you can follow the guidelines, we're more likely to hire you than someone who can't, because we just won't read your submission. Mummy the Eclipse Phase. As Eclipse Phase is my favourite sci-fi RPG, Nikolai, I appreciate that they do, but I'm always hopeful that someone from White Wolf, who I work with as well, might check out this channel or listen to my rants and raves and say, oh, actually, he keeps mentioning Demon the Fallen. I wonder if we should do something with that. Can you become truly dead as a mummy, says Pavel? Yes, you can be completely obliterated. It's quite difficult, but one of the ways would be for one of the lifeless, the poor bastards who were sacrificed to actually make you into mummies and came back as ever-hungry immortals known as Schwanksen. They can devour you piece by piece, and if they do, you will be obliterated. He wants to know how many of us he can reach with Dominate through the stream. Well, I'm looking into your eyes right now. I'm scenarios and aquatic monsters. Yeah, the manuscript was approved a long time ago. Art has been rolling in. We've just been waiting for the sign-off to put it on Kickstarter. Calasan says the answer to how many of us you can dominate through the stream is most likely around all. Well, again, I'm telling you. Go on Kickstarter, back the Kickstarter, put in all caps the gentleman gamer sent me here. Special invite to sit on my Werewolf the Apocalypse game, Rage Across the Apocalypse game. If only I had time. You see, most of my time spent running and playing games now is so that I'm playtesting them in advance of those games being released. So I do get leisure time, but I have to be very selective. Right now, that time is spent running Call of Cthulhu. Can the mummies wake up pre-Nameless Empire? That is a question we have not answered in the core, but we may answer in a sourcebook. I would say no, just off on the face of it. And that's because technically the Nameless Empire exists at no point in time, and yet at all points in time. That may sound a bit woolly and funny, but mummies also exist at all points in time, which is how they can wake up forwards, backwards, and all over the damn place. Thanks for all the righteous videos. Love the law, says Paul. Thank you very much for subscribing, Paul. And Michael is good with rules. The second edition is cursed. The second edition isn't cursed, it's blessed. It's about a curse, but it isn't cursed. There's talk of tests in the afterlife. How do those play? Gadfly Cafe asks, that's a really good question. One of the chapters that you will be able to see if you back the Kickstarter is going to take you through the trials of Duat, which is basically your character's journey through the afterlife and all the trials you have to undergo. I'm not going to ruin it here, but Mummy has become a much bigger and accessible game with second edition. The stream crashed when I looked into your eyes. Well, I'm looking into your eyes again now. You're going to listen to me and you're going to back the damn game. Alright. Okay, good God. How much are we going to see of followers of Set in this Mummy? Not in this one, because they're in the World of Darkness and this is a Chronicles of Darkness game, but don't let that put you off. Chronicles of Darkness is fantastic. And yes, I'm currently running Mummy the Curse on Red Moon role-playing. If you are not familiar with Red Moon role, and see me. Yes, I'm running for Red Moon role-playing right now. Mummy the Curse, I'm running Cult of Divinity Lost for them, and I'm participating in a game of Vampire the Masquerade for them. So do check out Red Moon Role-Playing on YouTube and on redmoonroleplaying.com. They have a fantastic Patreon as well. Now, I am probably going to need to go, because as ever, in fact, I've got art notes to write, art to commission for Let the Streets Run Red, which is a V5 source book. But I am going to be around. You will see me again very soon. I am so grateful that so many of you tuned in for this live stream. Again, despite the breaks in continuity, I would love it if some of you could just check out Mummy the Curse 2nd edition on Kickstarter. It's there right now. Give it a back, and if you could, if it's not too much to ask, leave a comment to say that I sent you there, because I would love to know whether this channel still has an active audience in a way. Just judging from the number of comments, I'm guessing yes. I'm not using charm, I'm using presence. Thank you very much for watching.